Hey guys, welcome to Meghan Grace DIY. When I was doing my research for my next tutorial, I came across something called a scrub bag. And what a scrub bag is a bag that a nurse or a doctor can take with them into the office and then take their scrubs off and put them in the bag so that way they can go directly into the wash when they get home. But when I started to look into it a little bit, I realized a scrub bag is just basically a large drawstring bag. So what I want to do in today's tutorial is show you the steps to make the drawstring bag, but also show you some of the different ways you can use it, such as a gift bag, a little baggie for your sunglasses, something to take to the beach. And once you've got these steps down, you really can make a drawstring bag in any shape or size. Let me start out that if you plan on making scrub bags to donate to a local caregiver or hospital, you can actually make them out of pillowcases. I've got a pillowcase here that I've cut all of the seams off of already, and I could basically just fold this in half and get 2 scrub bags out of one pillowcase. For measurement's sake, when I had these seams cut off, the pillowcase measures out at 26 inches wide and 20 inches long. But for a project like this, if you're making a scrub bag, give or take an inch or two, it's not going to make that big of a difference, and you might use completely different measurements depending on what kind of project you want to make. If you were looking to make a scrub bag from fabric that you bought at the store, I have in front of me 3/4 of a yard. Now 3/4 of a yard, or 27 inches long, will create 2 scrub bags for you because we're going to end up cutting it in half at the bottom. This particular fabric measures 42 inches wide, which is great for this type of project. But just double check how wide your fabric is. If it's 60 inches, you may need to adjust your measurements slightly. So my fabric is already folded in half from being on the bolt, but I'm going to fold it in half again widthwise. I'm going to give my piece a quick, if you will, haircut, just because I thought the ends were a teeny tiny bit off. Next, I'm going to cut a 1-inch wide strip off across the entire top of this fabric. Later on, we're going to use this fabric to make the drawstring ties. Here you can see me take my scissors and cut along the fold that's at the bottom of the fabric. I'm going to take the top piece and I'm going to fold it in half vertically. We're going to focus just on the top piece of fabric for right now, but we're going to use that bottom piece of fabric for smaller bags later in the tutorial. Taking the longer edge of the fabric over to the iron, I pressed it down 1/2 inch, and then I rolled it over and pressed it down another inch. Once this is sewn, this will serve as the casing for our drawstring. But before we sew the casing, there's one little special thing I want to do first. On the right and the left sides of the fabric where the hole will be, I want you to press the edge of the fabric in by about 3/8 of an inch. We're doing this so we can add a finishing to the holes where the drawstring is going to come out of, so you don't end up with them fraying later on. With that small fold over, we're going to start about 2.5 inches down, and we're going to stitch up towards the top of the bag. And here I am repeating the steps on the other side of the bag. I'm stitching in about 3/8 of an inch and down about 2.5 inches. How far you stitch down is really based off how big of a casing that you're making. So if you're making a smaller bag with a much smaller casing, you wouldn't be stitching down as far. With both sides of our casing holes prepared, we're going to go back to folding the casing downward. It's 1/2 inch, and then we fold it down another inch. Once it's pressed and pinned in place, you can take it to the machine and you're going to stitch all the way across the top of the fabric. I'm sure you guys are like me, and I just live for a freshly pressed piece of cotton. With the casing complete, we're going to go ahead and fold our bag in half vertically. Shake it, make sure it's nice and even. And then we're going to take our pins and we're going to pin the left vertical side and the bottom of the bag together. Before we sew those sides together, just go back to where we finished off the drawstring holes for one moment. You're going to take your scissors, and just below where the casing is finished, you're going to clip your seam allowance so it's able to open flat. I know this is a small extra step, but I really do think that finishing off the holes where the drawstrings will come out will make your bag last longer. Now that you're ready, you're going to take your bag over to the sewing machine and you're going to do a straight stitch down the vertical side of the bag, and then you're going to turn at the corner and do a straight stitch down the bottom of the bag. When I sew corners, I do something called blunting, which is sinking your needle, turning a 45-degree angle, stitching 2 stitches, and then turning to continue on your path. Although this may seem counterintuitive, this actually allows you to get a sharper point in the corner of your bag. And as always, once we've finished our straight stitch, we're going to go ahead and finish it off with a zigzag so the inside of our bag won't fray and looks nice and professional. Now we're going to move on to our cord. Only cutting a 1-inch wide strip really is going to give us a nice skinny cord to use as a drawstring for this bag. I'm starting by folding the top over a 1/4 inch and pressing that in place. We're going to repeat this step by turning the bottom edge up a 1/4 inch and pressing it as well. Now that we've pressed the top and the bottom, we're going to go ahead and fold the cord in half lengthwise, and we're going to press it closed. This is what your drawstring should look like up to this point, and you're ready to sew it closed. But it is worth mentioning that you don't have to make your own drawstring. I just think it looks nice when it matches your project. When sewing something so thin like our drawstring, I find that if I hold the tails of the thread at the back and give a little bit of tension, it helps get it started a bit more smoothly. I'm sewing as close as I can to the right edge while making sure that I'm capturing both sides of the fabric. If you don't want to make your own drawstring, you could always use ribbon or a piece of nylon cord. With our cord completed, you guys know what time it is. It's scoochy scooch time. I like to take a safety pin and put it at the edge of my drawstring that I'm trying to feed through my casing. I use this safety pin to push along the casing and then take the excess casing and push it back towards the drawstring. And look, we've scooched our way all the way through. There's a few different ways that you can close a drawstring bag, but the first one I'm going to show you is how to use a cord lock. I was able to get a giant pack of these from Amazon for only a couple dollars. When you first pull the cord lock out of the bag, you're going to think it's broken. It's going to feel loose. But what you have to do is push the top in until you feel a click, and that activates the cord lock. Now we take both ends of the drawstring and we're going to push the cord lock down and we're going to feed those 2 ends through the hole. The cord lock is great because it allows you to tighten or loosen the opening of your bag. Another way that you can finish the ties is by just folding them over and stitching them. This will keep the ties from fraying, and then you can tie them in a bow to close the bag. I'm now going to show you one more way that you can add an extra professional touch to your drawstring bags. I want you to cut 2 rectangles out of the same fabric that you made the bag out of that are 3 inches long and 1 1/4 inch wide. Take the rectangles and you're going to press down a 1/4 inch at both the bottom and the top. Then fold your rectangle in half with the folded edges touching each other. Place the square underneath the presser foot and you're going to sew each side closed at a 1/4 inch. To make the tab easier to flip right side out, you can go ahead and trim those seam allowances down to 1/8 inch. And once it's flipped, you're going to press it nice and flat. Placing the edge of your drawstring inside the open end of the tab, you're going to have the drawstring be just about in the middle, and you're going to go ahead and sew it closed. And look, now you've got an adorable finishing touch to your project. These tabs will also ensure that your drawstring will never disappear inside your casing. Now that you've learned the basic steps of making a drawstring bag, you can apply these steps to basically any size of bag that you want to make. So before we go, I'm going to show you a few fun ideas of what you could do with a drawstring bag. In this instance, I was thinking about making gift bags when you're having a party for a little girl. I created some metallic iron-on lettering that if you don't have a Cricut, I have a way you can make these on your own if you just click the link above. And once you've got all the pieces in place, you've got the word straight and I've got the tiara, I put a press cloth down and I'm gonna go ahead and iron for 30 seconds. Once I take the iron away, you can see you've added some really beautiful personalization to your drawstring bag. And of course, what would a Meghan Grace DIY project be without a couple of rhinestones? I think personalizing drawstring bags like this would be perfect for your bridal party or for your favors at your wedding. And lastly, I've cut out a little silhouette of a pair of sunglasses. Following the same sequence of steps as before, I'm going to pull away my press cloth and reveal my sunglasses logo. And now I've got an adorable little sunglasses case with a personal touch. I hope that I've showed you in this video that once you know the steps how to make a drawstring bag, you can really use this for several different projects. You can use it as a scrub bag, as gift bags for a party, as a sunglass carrier, as a real glasses carrier. You could even use them to put your stinky derby gear in at the end of a game. But if you want to give back to our frontline workers, scrub bags are a great and easy way to do so. And just like that, we've wrapped up another tutorial at Meghan Grace DIY. If you have any questions or comments or ideas for new tutorials, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Plus, I've got some fun little Easter eggs planned to be hidden in my future tutorials. But if you want to be eligible for them, you have to subscribe. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notify button on your way out. And as always, happy sewing!